Welcome to the Raise Your Banner podcast. Tonight's guest is Keira Thompson, the founder and owner of Black Point Jewelers, a great jewelry store in Connecticut. She'll be talking to us about entrepreneurship, small business ownership, the pros and cons of being a small business owner, and some of the successes and struggles she's had along the way. Stick around, stay tuned, and enjoy the show.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, Kara, great to have you on. Good to see you again. I know we've saw each other a bunch over the last. I know we were just talking. Probably been 7 years. I know I've been a customer of yours on a number of things, and then we talked about a bunch of other stuff. So glad to have you on. Like I said, we're always looking to get great people on here. So we're looking forward to hearing your story. So,
Thanks for having
yeah, can you tell us a little bit about just how you got into the jewelry business and how that all started?
Well, it's kind of a funny journey, I would say. Started back in, believe it or not, 2005, so about 19 years ago.
Wow.
I went to church with a lady who owned a jewelry store, and I basically begged her for a job. And then finally, out of the blue, she said, "I need somebody," and I took the job. And I thought it would just be, basic customer service with, helping people pick jewelry out and cleaning the counters, basic, I would say, jewelry store needs. And about a week into being there, she's like, no, 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 like, it's more than that. You're going to learn how to fix jewelry. And I was like, I don't think that's what I signed up for. And she's like, well, if you want the job, you're going to have to learn this. So I was like, okay, I want the job. And I literally learned hands-on bench work starting then. And eventually I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is in New York City. And I went to school for business management. And my dream was to and manage a store. And
Right.
all this jewelry experience under my belt, the only retail stores that would look at me were jewelry stores. So I did take a job in Connecticut. I don't think they're family owned anymore. They were at the time, Michael's Jeweler. I worked there for a little over a year, and then my original boss called me back and said she was moving stores and needed a full-time manager. So that's how I ended up with her. And then she went. I was for a few years. She retired, and I opened my store in Niantic, Connecticut, in 2016. So that's where I met you when you were stationed in Connecticut.
Yep.
And I was there for about 4 years, and I closed a little bit prior to COVID time, the actual retail store, but I still operate in a different mannerism. I call it being a private jeweler, sort of, and I meet people at like cafes or or their office space, and sort of like I just strictly do repairs and custom design now, but it's still within my realm, and save money on that overhead. So,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's been a long term. I guess once you get into a career, kind of can't find your way out of it, and that's how I got stuck with it. And here I go. Here I am.
I know we talked early on. I think I had come into the store the first time for something. It was probably around the fall or winter time frame, trying to find my mother a gift for Christmas, I'm sure, or something like that. And I remember. So it's funny. It was right around the time I started my e-commerce antiques business, but I hadn't officially started yet, right? And I remember talking to you, and somehow we got on the topic of the small business thing. And you were, I know you were giving me some pointers. It was really nice. And it was probably maybe part of a little bit of a catalyst that I needed to finally do it and make it official. Um, but you actually had a store, which I kind of strive to do still. I have that in the back of my mind all the time. I know there's a lot that goes into having a physical, like, brick and mortar. Obviously, me doing e-commerce now makes it is just kind of like you're doing yours. Probably it is significantly easier, right? Um,
It is.
but I don't know. What were the pros and cons with some of that? I mean, you didn't own the building, right? So you just rented, I'm assuming, and then
No,
how did that work? Yeah,
so that's a big, I would call it a big con for any type of commercial business, having to rent the space because you don't own that. So even
right,
a lot of money into that space, and when your lease is up, it's not that doesn't even belong to you after that time. So it's a hard thing to say unless you can, I always say unless you're going to be there for a long time. Or, and I thought maybe after COVID, commercial real estate would become more reasonable. And as we all know, real estate has not become more reasonable in the last 4
no,
years.
not at all.
So, I mean, I long-term goal to get back into a space, but I think it becomes, for anybody that's looking into small business, you really have to, think about the dollar cents, because there's more than just your rent is just some of your basic overhead. And then depending on the area, you have electric, water, sewer, gas, there's a lot of expenses that people have to have. And insurance, I still have insurance, and that's not gotten any less expensive. There is a beauty in, to me, and maybe as a small business owner, and to have the retail space, because I'm touchy feely. Same like your antique stuff.
Yeah,
I'll look at pieces or look at things, and I think that's hard for anybody in small business. Um, we're living in, I call it the Amazon era. So people can get stuff, the next day, same day if you're in like a city, and it's hard to compete with that. But, customer service at the end of the day is so important. And I think being able to see the product and talk to somebody, like I would consider myself a jewelry expert, talk to me
right.
about, my expertise. But for anybody looking into small business, I think you have to really feel out your landlord, or potential landlord, whoever, if you're going to rent a space, and don't sign some of these, I know somebody that signed, I would call it a crazy lease, 10 years. Like that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
my initial landlord, actually, when I moved, I wanted a 3-year lease, and then we negotiated. And I said, I think two is a good start, because you can make it 2 years and we can go from there. So
Right.
ways, I don't know if you're aware too, and I have found out about it too, for anyone that's listening and wants to start a small business. SCORE is like former business executives that give free advice. That's something I would advise people to look into. There's local chapters. Get some advice from people who've been at the top, and
Right.
SBA or Small Business Administration. Get some advice, or talk to people that own business.
Yeah, it's definitely daunting. Like, I feel like I'm at a point now where for the start of my antique stuff, it's been very like lower end stuff, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like from a cost perspective, like what people are buying, and people all buy it all the time. Like, they sell a lot, but they're just less expensive stuff, right? So I have to sell a lot to do all right. And I'm at that crossroads now, and I made my biggest deal I've ever made this year, and I got another one coming up next week, actually. Um,
What thing?
but I'm at like that crossroads of like, okay, I've only put my own money into this whole thing, and same with the podcast and the research company. Um, and it's a daunting. Like, I feel like I'm ready for some sort of, I say investment, right? But I'm scared to take anybody else's money. I'm scared to, like, from an investor standpoint, and then the loan thing is scary too, when it's the business loans aren't the same beast as just like a regular loan, right, or a car loan or something like that.
Right.
But I feel like I'm at that point. Like, from a growth standpoint, like whether I have a store or not, like I need the cash at this point to make the next leap, and that's kind of what I'm trying to navigate now. It's interesting. So
Even for your area, I'm sure like the score thing is really interesting. I've never personally done it, but I've heard people have done that. And I understand what you're saying. And that's why I thought I'm a big negotiator. And people say jewelry is
Right.
negotiable, and there's a certain point. But when it comes to like commercial real estate and stuff, if it's a good spot, you gotta, it's a leap of faith. I mean, also if you're doing well online, take the leap and just,
Right.
like I said, take a year, take 2 years maximum, because then you can, you sink or float in that amount of time. I would
Yeah.
say. They always say it's like up to 3 years, but you'll figure it out in the pretty short term that and make adjustments from there.
My other problem down here is, DC is, I'm in the city, right? So extremely expensive. Like I looked at a property maybe a couple months ago, DuPont Circle. I don't know if you're familiar with the city at all. It is one of the more expensive areas of the city. It's right next to a beautiful coffee shop, huge amount of traffic. Probably about the same size as your store was in Niantic. And the rent, well, the published rent, obviously, I didn't do any negotiating or talk to anybody, but they were looking for like 8,300 a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's like with nothing, right? So even like right now, I rent an office in DC where most of my antiques are actually kept in a small office, and I'm like by appointment only. And I continue just the e-commerce thing. But I also live in a different area than what I was just describing. That I think an antique store would work well. Like in DC, there's not a lot of antique stores, so I get my phone rings off the hook pretty well. It's actually, and I've been doing this since 2017, and this is the most I've ever got phone call wise. And it's mostly people trying to sell, not buy. They just want to get rid of stuff. Um, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. I feel like, yeah, if I'm going to take the jump, it's going to be in a year or two. I think there's like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like there's like a community / like social thing with having a retail store too. Like, I don't know, like I feel like, okay, if I have a store that people come to, like I'm in this neighborhood, like I'm part of the neighborhood, I live here too. There's just like I don't know, there's like that social civic community thing too that going on, you know?
That's absolutely true. And I mean, depending on the area, look like I'll use an example like Niantic. Niantic has Niantic Main Street, which is a nonprofit. It's a community organization, and they are there to ramp up the business in Niantic and have events and everything else. It does become a community. I couldn't do what I do now, like jewelry. I do my repairs from home and then meet customers at their respective location. I would say that's community based, because I have a lot of people that from the Niantic area. I don't advertise, so it's all word of mouth. And then I worked at a former jeweler store in Portland, Connecticut, and so it's like central, like Middletown area.
Mm-hmm.
So I have those customers. So I would say absolutely it becomes community based, because that's your bread and butter are those individuals. And I did a lot. When you have a retail space, you do become part of the community. I did a lot of donations. I did these bracelets for Niantic for the East Lyme High School and their project graduation. So you also become part of the community when you're raising money for the community as well. So yeah, it is an interesting thing once you get, but that's a steep price for
It is, yeah, for that place. Like, I don't know what I haven't been able to get insight on some of the prices that are in my neighborhood. I don't think they're as bad, but they're definitely not much better. Probably in like the fives. But it's funny, like you said it, like you think it would have got better after COVID. But I think for a lot of the retail spaces, they just want to leave them empty. Like a lot of my antiques are transportation related. So I literally live right down the street from the Union Station, the main train station in DC.
Right.
That place used to be like this hub of people going through there. It's gotten better after COVID, but a lot of stores left post COVID or during COVID. And you'd think now that maybe they'd want to get more people in there, because it's kind of like it's a little depressing now with just the empty stores and things and empty restaurants. So I don't know. Maybe there is an opportunity out there. I just haven't found it yet. Granted, I haven't done a lot of research, but yeah, it's just part of the process, I guess.
Communication is key. It doesn't hurt to reach out. That's what I said for small business, for anything, reach
Right.
out to that and that owns that space. And you could just be honest. Hey, I've seen the space empty for 6 months. Could you give me a shot for a year? You know what I mean?
Right.
Try a short term type of thing. Then, I mean, you only learn what's going to happen by just doing it.
Doing it. Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably what I'll end up doing. Like for me, my other biggest issue is the inventory. And so if I have a store, I need to get some different, like I don't usually do furniture, but if I do have a store, I'm going to have to get some furniture, right? That's just, to me, that seems like a obvious one. So I will have to spend some time buying to get stuff, to get stuff ready for it probably. But I don't know. It's a fun thing to think about. It's definitely, I don't know, but daunting at the same time. So.
I think any small business is like that, and I hate this phrase, but it's true. You gotta spend some money to make money. Spend money
True.
to make money, and it is true, and it reaps benefits. I think the hardest small business, from what I ever hear, is restaurants. I think
I
that
hear
is
that too.
the very, very most difficult small business to run, and that's grueling. That's a grueling business, because any small business, besides your overhead, is once you get into a small business and how many employees I was very lucky. I had Heather, who was my manager in Niantic, and I had her for years, and she was great, but it's hard to find good staff, especially nowadays. And I had some other help, but I did all of the jewelry repairs. I still do all my jewelry repairs, and all, like, my bookkeeping. I don't pay a bookkeeper. I pay an accountant to do file
Yeah,
tax.
same here.
But for, like, your monthly reconciliation, all that kind of stuff, that's me. Social media, that's me. So there's a
Yep.
lot of hardware as a small business owner. But I mean, what I tell everybody at the end of the day, it's enjoyable because it's me. And it's my schedule, and it has that flexibility. So when you say, I'm going to take some time off in July, take time in July. And that's the most enjoyable thing to me. Is it's just, I don't have somebody breathing down my back as a boss. I think I could deal with it, and the flexibility, and really get. Like I said, I think you get what you put into it. So if you put your heart and soul into it, you'll reap there's benefits there. This being your own boss, it's a good thing.
Well, there's interesting, like, I don't know, pleasures, joys that I didn't realize I was going to get out of it. And I'm sure, I would assume for you, it's even better because you're actually like making these, like, to me, you made me this ring, right? These special, like, things for people, and so there's got to be like this, joy in doing all that and giving it to the customer. Like, this might sound stupid, and I've joked with people about this. Like, I get an order, there's something special about like putting it in the box and getting it out. Like, knowing that it's going to a good home, especially when it's an antique thing. And on the antique business, like, I get stories about stuff that I never expected. Like, oh, my grandfather flew for this airline and he passed away, blah, 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 and I've never had anything from him, or vice versa. Or I get former, railroad employees buying this thing, or it's like all this stuff that was unexpected that came along with it. That definitely make it a lot better,
That's like my special. Well, you have that ring, but custom is really my specialty, and a lot of it is. I've got a tremendous amount. You're talking about, you've got some big. I've got a tremendous amount of, I call them, like, a refashion or redo of some people that have, like, they've inherited pieces or whatnot, and they want to redo it into a new piece. And that's my favorite, because you talk about stories. Some of these have, really, really deep stories. And in all the years, I can tell you, I have probably a 99.9% satisfaction rate. So it's always a really great thing to deliver a piece, because people are just usually, they're blown away. They're just so excited. It is emotional. And there's good merit in that for someone like yourself that's honest and talk about a piece. And like me too, I get to actually physically work with these pieces, versus, like, I've seen on, like, Instagram and stuff, there's a lot of places popping up in New York, and I can't imagine sending my, diamond to New York versus, giving it to someone local like myself.
Right.
And yeah, it's a tremendous sentimental value in a lot of my work that I do. Most of the work, I would say, right now is.
Yeah, I never really thought about it until I think I saw one of your Facebook posts or something like that where you had redone somebody's ring or something or repurposed it, and it dawned on me, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. Like, how many people get left jewelry, whether there's good stories or not, like there's still that jewelry there. And yeah, and then there's the sentimental stories that go along with it, but maybe they don't want to wear it, or they want to, like you said, repurpose it into something else so they can wear it. Definitely interesting. I mean, for me, like, I think I told you the story about my father died when I was young, which is a big part of my own mental health journey. And, you had done this necklace for me too. And that was kind of based off, if you remember, a cross that my dad had, because I didn't really want to wear the cross anymore, just because you never know. Like, I'm paranoid that it's going to get lost, right? But my thinking was, let's try to recreate something that we've kind of designed on our own, but has like the connection there, and there's a reason behind it and things like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely that's an awesome thing that you do. So
Thanks. No, it's the sentimental and real value to people. I'll just use an example. A lady who inherited a couple diamonds, and she has a couple daughters, and they were like, oh, I'm interested at the moment. Like, she approached me and she said, how about making it into one piece, just one ring? And she loves it. And you get, I'm a big believer in wearing, my dog. Wearing and enjoying what you have. So, sorry.
we like dogs.
Sorry.
So what's kind of next? You're just planning on just like you said, for now, sticking with the private stuff, but maybe look for a store at some point if you can.
Yeah.
What about shows? Do you do any shows or anything?
No, I don't usually do shows. I tried. Actually, I did so much in that fall before COVID, fall 2019. I did a couple of like craft shows, but it's not really my forte. And I think that anyone with small business, you like yourself, you said you have to change the aspect of your inventory. I've changed to be like strictly custom design and repair. That's
Right.
me.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it would be nice. My kids are so little right now. They're not little. Getting bigger. That maybe in a couple of years it'd be nice to be back into retail, like actual with a
I've
physical.
started these shows over the last couple of years. Since I retired from the Navy, I did one show before I retired, and then post retirement, I said, okay, now I have the time to like start doing more. I think for me, like, the verdict's still out. I don't think I've really made a ton of money trying to do shows. Like, I definitely, from a cash perspective, yeah, the shows are usually decent cash flow wise, but none of them have ever really made money over what it cost me. Like, for example, I have a show coming up in 2 weeks in Kansas City, a big airline show. But like, even though I probably won't make the money back what it's going to cost me to go out there for the week, like, there is a lot of other stuff that comes along with it: the advertising, the exposure to like the big collectors in the community. So there's like things like that. But then the show things can get a little exhausting too. It's like, you bring it, you set it up. I'm trying to do like 3 or 4 a year, 5 a year. I started doing 2 overseas, one in Amsterdam and Paris. Those are fun, definitely interesting, definitely different. But it also, at the same time, for me, it kind of proved that I could do the retail. I think if I found the right spot, with the right clientele, I guess I think it can make it work. It's just interesting. So.
Well, location. You're in a great city, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I thought, like, especially, there's so many people that just live here, right? Like, you walk outside the apartment building I'm in, there's, I don't know, I mean, there's a million apartment buildings right here, right? So my thought was, I have my specialties of the transportation stuff, which can be very decorative, but it's a little bit of a niche crowd, right? But my thoughts were like, well, people want to decorate their houses, but like, how do younger crowds and younger folks want to decorate their stuff? Maybe like I see a lot of stuff online. People like the vintage movie posters, like vintage, mid-century modern, like that Art Deco is still in right now, even in the younger crowd. So yeah, I think there's like definitely an avenue to get in, and then at the same time, you also have there's an extremely high-end crowd in DC. Like, I mean, between the politicians and all the other lobbyists and all those other folks, there's some you know there's some money in this city, right? So it's like if you get
Right.
other stuff, it's definitely if you could tap into that population, that would be interesting. So
Yeah, I think it's a great location for you, and especially people in that area definitely want to decorate. I would think so. I'm sure they host
yeah,
events, even dinner parties and stuff like that. You have to, if we're talking about small business, you really have to think about the area you're in. Like when I had my store night, I really focused on like the nautical. Was like I had a lot of nautical.
I remember that.
I don't have a ton of I don't have any inventory anymore, but that's what you kind of you develop for the area, evolve for your area. So it's
Well,
good.
that's why I thought having it in the train station with the transportation related stuff would be probably a good idea, because you're just going to get people to come through anyways, and I can always ship it if people are just traveling. But then you throw the other stuff on top of it. It's very easy to get to the store because it's centrally located in the city. So it would be interesting, I think.
The last time I was in DC was that I don't know, I did a lot of travel in fall 2019, and I did go. I did actually take a train, even though we could from Connecticut. I flew into DC, and we went to the train station just to look. So I mean, it is a good spot because there was not as retail driven right now, but there was a lot of little cute shops in there to go and poke at. And so
Yeah, it's funny. It's frustrating though. Like, I try to follow everybody locally that I can. Like, I follow this train station. I follow their retail company, the company that owns all the retail stores. Like, I follow these people. But like last week, I went in there. I had to go to the post office, right? Last weekend, and there's a pop up like art antique type thing going, and I'm like, well, this was never advertised anywhere. Like, I never saw that. I would have had a table there, And it gets a little frustrating sometimes where like, you obviously, like you said, you got to do a lot of the work yourself. But you can only do so much too. Like, I was like, well, I'm on everywhere I could possibly be to see that something like this would be advertised, and somehow I didn't see it, or they didn't advertise it. It's just kind of interesting from that standpoint too. A lot of legwork, I guess. A lot of definitely some frustration thrown in there occasionally. So,
you're never bored at
no.
a small business. You have to say there is definitely no boredom in small business, and stuff like that too. That don't be afraid. You're not afraid. Get business cards. I know that sounds
Yep.
really old, but people nowadays, even if they won't take it, I tell them take a picture of it, because you'll always have your phone with you. So
Yeah.
that's how you get, besides like social media and all that kind of stuff, get yourself out there, is, just to, I'm not super aggressive, but here's my card, or just take a picture of it if that makes it easier for you. So
Yeah, I've got better about carrying it with me because, like, so on the weekends, there's a couple of really good outdoor markets here on the weekends, Easter Market, and then actually near where that store building I told you I went to look at. But I've tried to get better about remembering. All right, take my business cards, because there's always like an antique table there. There's always other folks, even for the podcast too. Trying to get guests on the podcast. I'm like, here, I have one for the podcast with like a QR code. I'm like, just scan their QR code, goes right to it. But it's definitely, like you said, a lot of legwork on your own. I wanted to switch gears. A question for you, because I'm kind of curious what your take is on it. And I would assume you haven't had too many like painful customers, but what's your take on like the customer service piece? Because obviously that's a huge part of it. I've been pretty lucky where I haven't had too many problems. It stresses me out when I do, but so I don't know. Any insight there?
I haven't. I've been really lucky. That's why I said I would say 99.9% satisfaction rate. I will use an example I found for the first time. And like I said, this fall will be 19 years. I think it was
That's crazy,
last.
by the way. I said that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Congrats. Yeah.
yeah, it is crazy. I look really young. uh, um, Last fall, I did a piece. I will just describe it very lightly. I did a piece for a customer with I do a lot like say picture based. Like
Right.
I'm old school. I don't even use CAD. I still do wax molds and casting. So I do based on like, drawings or pictures, or someone says, here's 2 pictures I found on Google or Pinterest. Could you,
Yeah, I think that's how we did mine. Part of mine. Yeah.
yeah, actually, I think you did most of the drawing for yours. And so um, I took her pictures and she gave me a sample ring and a picture and developed into to this one piece. And when your heart and soul's into this business, it was spot on exactly what she was looking for. And when it came to delivering it, she was like, I don't love it.
Oh
And
man.
I was so drawn back because so last fall would have been 18 years in the business. I was like, oh my goodness, in 18 years, I've never encountered somebody who disliked a custom piece of jewelry. So I had to like sit there you have to sit for a moment. I tried to don't even say anything because I don't want to say anything bad. You can't, it is customer service. And,
Right.
every review I think I have, Google, Facebook is all 5 stars. So it's like, okay, we're going to handle this in the best way we can. And I just said to her, this is the design you wanted.
Right.
Where did I miss the mark? Where did we miss? And then she's like, she wanted a totally different design. And I said, okay. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, we can do that. And I said, in the nicest way possible, I said, there is some cost associated with that because and I'll be gentle. I told her I'll be really, really gentle with you for price, but you're asking for a whole complete different rate,
Right.
She wasn't not, she wasn't, she wasn't, she was receptive to it. So I think she realized at the same time too, I delivered her it was beautiful, this beautiful ring. And it broke my heart to take it apart and make but it was a whole new design. So I'd say all the time, a give and a take. So I did, but like I said, I was very gentle. I said, okay, I will redo this and I will redo it at a very minimal cost. So I think that's your customers. That's really, I hope knock on wood, I hope I don't have that experience.
Yeah, I hope I didn't just jinx you for this.
She was completely satisfied afterward. And
That's good.
so,
That's good.
yes. So, but I mean, what are you going to do? That was I would say a very rare case. That went from I want letter A to letter Z. It was like,
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah.
it's not me because I'm not, I take a lot of these projects, like we were talking about before, sentimental. I take it to my heart because I'm like, wow,
Yeah, exactly.
interesting. And this was, a review. And I was like, of an engagement ring to a new engagement ring. And but it ended up working out well. So
That's awesome.
you have to work with people, like it's customer service. And and she was satisfied afterwards. So
yeah, it's this year I got my first really bad review. It was on Etsy actually.
oh no.
I actually was able to get it removed because it wasn't a review on me. It was a review on shipping. Even though I ship, I have a 1-day turnaround on just about everything. Like my shipping is fast. And the funny thing is the tracking had said it was like literally in the person's town. It just hadn't been delivered yet. It was at like the distribution place. But they made this really nasty comment, blah, blah, blah. It was aimed at me, but also aimed at the post office. And so I asked Etsy, I'm like, hey, this really isn't against my store. It's really against the post office. Like I didn't do anything wrong. You can see I shipped it, so they were able to remove it, which was nice. But, I find that somewhat stressful sometimes because you're just like, you just never know, right? At least for my thing, like I'm selling antique items, which, I represent them well. I price them well. Like my prices aren't over the top. They're not too low. They're very competitive, but they're like reasonable, right? But I occasionally get that too, is like I get a lot of, especially online, I get a lot of, why is the shipping so much? For like a piece of paper. I'm like, well, I don't ship. I'm not going to put it in an envelope with stamps. Like it's going to go out protected, and it is what it is. It's $4 and some cents. If you don't want to pay that, then I can't help you there. But and then it shows too. You get that with some of the prices too. People, and there's some kind of like you said earlier. There's definitely obviously some haggling in the antique business, especially in person. But
Right.
there's just some people that I guess aren't happy, and they're always going to argue about the price and things like that. But that's why I try to like beat that before it even happens, because by keeping my prices very good anyways. So usually I don't get too many complaints, but occasionally get a couple bad apples in there.
Yeah, I think price wise, like you're saying too, I would say I'm definitely not high priced. I mean, people think you're certain things every once in a while, but you're paying a price for. I can't help. This is a commodity business too.
Yeah, exactly.
You can track dollar prices. You can track gold prices. People don't believe when you say there's no money in the engagement ring. They laugh, and I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, you can go to Blue Nile, you can go to any of these websites and see what like the cost of a diamond is.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of money made in like the setting, but you're looking for longevity. I'm looking for that customer come back for wedding bands or whatever. So I think people don't believe that. And yeah, shipping is very difficult. I try my best to stay away from shipping. And actually, I did have an Etsy issue, but it didn't end up being a bad review. It ended up being, I had a few pieces when I closed the store. I wanted to unload my inventory. I don't need any of that kicking around. And I had shipped a ring out, same as you, like that day, or sometimes I'm like the following day. So within 24 hours, the piece is out. And it was going from Connecticut to California, and it took 4 weeks to get there.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, the person was actually very reasonable about it, but it was supposed to be 2 days shipping, and it took that. So that wasn't me. That was the postal service, and I did have to reach out to Etsy too, because I said like this. No, you could track that. You could see. That's not me.
Well, I remember when we were talking about doing the rings. I'm pretty sure, like, I like that about working with you. You were really open about the pricing, and I think you showed me. And I had done my own research too, just because obviously, like you said, it's a commodity-based thing. And but you pretty much showed me right up front. Hey, just to let you know, this is what gold's going for right now. This is what this is going for. This is what the garnets are going for. Blah blah blah. And which to me makes it so much easier, because at that point and then obviously on my head I'm like, well, then there's obviously going to be a cost for your work on top of that, so it just makes sense, and it makes it I think for me at least, you made the process really easy. So
thanks. Yeah, well, it's I would say I would call it researchable.
Yeah.
Like even in the antique business, it's hard to compete with like eBay, Etsy, all that stuff. There's a sort of everything has a value to it. So
yeah.
I feel the same thing with jewelry. I mean, there's only so much, like you're saying too. The antique business, I'm sure, is more difficult when people want to price out. And same with the jewelry business. They always think everything's negotiable, but I'm like, when gold is $2,300 some odd dollars an ounce, it's only so much negotiation, because I have to buy.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned eBay and them. Like I sell on eBay, Etsy, and my website, and I just can't. I've contemplated getting Etsy. I've contemplated getting rid of eBay. Every time I think I'm going to do it, I struggle to get people to the website. It's just I can advertise all day. It just people are the sheer number of people that like eBay gets on their website can't really be. I'm not going to ever compete with that. So it's like, you just can't get rid of I can't get rid of it. For me, I do probably 60% of my sales on eBay, 70%, even with the website. Although the nice thing is, like, since I started selling on the website a couple years ago, like, it's every year the sales have gone up. So it's, I do have for me, I actually have a lot of repeat customers, which is nice too. And I just try to drive people, hey, go check the website out, because the fees everything's so much significantly cheaper. You know what I mean? Like, I pay a credit card fee, that's it. plus the yearly fee on the website, but that's peanuts and comparable to eBay. You know what I mean? So,
I have an active website without any sales personally, because I too echo that statement. It's so hard to compete with something that is, eBay's worldwide. I believe
yeah,
Etsy is too. So you really can't, I can't compare that. It is a good place for sale.
it is.
People are quick to be driven there. That's for sure. Then, like I said before, in the conversation, it's so hard. I'll tell people all the time, we're living this Amazon era. Like, if you say, oh, custom piece of jewelry takes like 4 weeks, they're like,
What?
really? Sometimes I do get that, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of time that is spent in this, it is not an overnight thing.
I agree, and I do a lot of sales in Europe, and that's the one thing I can't do on my own website. The problem I have on the website is I can't charge the VAT tax on my website because I'd
Oh,
have to have the
right.
VAT number. I'd have to have all that. And eBay does all that for you, so it's so much better that way. And they just started doing this I can't remember what they call it, but they have this international shipping option that's extremely inexpensive now for people. So you're definitely not going to compete with that. Stuff that used to cost $25 now costs $4.50, $5 for somebody in anywhere in the main part of Europe to get stuff. So definitely can't compete there. But it is what it is, and you got to do what you got to do, I guess, right? So
But you can remain a small business and just utilize utilize eBay, Etsy in that fashion to
yeah,
get
exactly.
out there. And I mean, and you need sales, or else you have no business.
I will say for anybody listening, I screwed up at the first when I started with eBay. Please make sure they have different subscriptions. They have different things like that. The higher subscription you buy, the less the final value fees are. All these other fees. I started out with the most basic of basic, and realized really quickly that why was my fee, like, by the end of the year my fees were really high, and I was like, what is going on? Well, with the lowest one you pay the highest final value fees and other things, and that was completely eaten into my profit. And in the end, it actually made more sense to have a higher subscription with the less fees, because it just made more sense. But they're not going to tell you that. You got to kind of figure it out by yourself, because obviously they want you to take whoever makes them the more money. You know what I mean? And for me, that kind of worked out. Or just on paper, looking at the basic subscription was like, oh, that's all I need. I'm not going to have this many sales. I don't have 10,000 plus items on eBay, this and that. But the reality was I should have used like the next tier up. And once I realized that, it took me almost 2 years to realize that, sadly. It was way better. So, but,
I don't sell a tremendous. I have, I think, some, just some silver stuff kicking on there. So I don't have that problem. But that's
yeah,
good
you're probably
advice.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't realize they had the different tiers there. But if you're doing a tremendous amount of business, that's
Well,
good advice.
no, you know where they got me. So on the basic tier, you can only have so many advertisements, right? I thought that was for the year. So if you go over the number, that's the basic one, right? They charge you a certain fee. So I thought that fee was a yearly fee. It was recurring every month. So to keep the ad up there, and if you say, I'm just making this up, say the minimum is 100 items on in the basic one that you could have, and anything over 100 is, I don't know, $5 a month. I had like 300-400 things on there, so I was getting hit pretty bad.
Wow.
Whatever it was, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can bump up to the next thing, which gives you like 1,000 to 9,999 items. It's cheaper, but I can have that many items, and it's not going to charge me that fee. Because like I said, I thought it was a year, but then I realized, like, wait a minute, they're charging me this every month. So yeah, anybody out there, I would just say, if you're going to start with eBay, Etsy, any of those ones, I sell on Shopify. Just read the fine print and figure out. It might take you a little bit to figure out like how many items you're going to have and how many you're going to sell, but just be cautious and be ready to change your subscriptions as needed, I guess. Where can people find you? I know you said you have a website and stuff. Where can they find you there, and social medias and stuff?
The name of my business, I have blackpaintjewelers.com. I do have an Etsy, same name, Black Point Jewelers, all one word on Etsy. Not much on there. I'm quite a few. I'm a little bit behind on that. But and then I have a Facebook page and an Instagram. I'm not the social media, but they can always send me a message on Facebook, Instagram. It goes into that Meta business profile, so I get a message from you there. That's all my social media platforms because I'm not good with the rest.
I'm
Or
right there with you. It's tough. So
haven't even attempted. I might be young, but I'm not on TikTok.
I contemplated it this year with the podcast, but I still haven't done it. I don't think I'm done it at this point. But it's not easy. And even like the advertising and stuff, at least Meta has like that business thing where it's a little easier because you can like do one post and it'll post it to Facebook and Instagram, things like that. It makes it a little bit easier. You can auto post stuff and schedule posts, which are definitely helpful. But
Yeah, anyone that's listening, I haven't personally advertised in a while because of I at the moment I don't need to.
yeah.
But I loved Facebook advertising when I had my physical store location. Facebook advertising and Google AdWords is so targeted because
Yeah, it is.
Facebook advertising you could target by zip code. Same with Google. Google, you just went onto Google and you just target. You made your ad. You targeted. It had a circumference. It came within
Right.
the area. So that's so reasonable because both of them you set your own budget. So if somebody wants to run a small business, wants to advertise in the small business, I cannot recommend that enough. You're right. Facebook, Instagram is Meta, so it's got it's tied together. And then there's tons of people on that. My grandma has a Facebook page.
I know, right? Yeah.
She's 94.
That's awesome.
So there's plenty of people that are on Facebook, and that's that I forget what the minimum was back. It's like $5 or $10, and
it's still $5. I think it's still $5. Yeah.
$5.
Yep.
Totally worth it because I definitely drove customers into my when I had a physical store location via Facebook. You'd advertise a certain thing, and people would show up for like, oh, we're looking for these nautical opal necklaces, and you'd be like, oh, you don't even have to ask how they found out about you. They found out because of this like targeted ad. So if anyone wants to run a small business, I highly recommend Meta, the Facebook, Instagram advertising and Google AdWords because Google, that's really reasonable too.
I agree. And then on top of that, I just started using, now I know Adobe's been in the media now a lot lately because they just changed their a lot of their rules and things, and some of the information they're keeping, blah blah blah. But I did start using like Adobe Express just to make basic ads that I can upload, which does make it a little bit easier. It has like all kinds of different templates and things in there. But like you said, between Google and Meta, the ad stuff is super easy. You just put it in there, like you said, put whatever your budget is and let it run basically for a week or so. One funny story, the one thing I tried to do an in-person Instagram thing, right, where somebody won a gift certificate. It was at a show I did. All my antique stuff out there. I bought two chairs from IKEA that look like ship chairs, right?
Okay.
They go with my theme, right? So I had them in the center of my whole booth with some good antiques in the middle and a sign that said, hey, tag me in your Instagram profile to enter win a $50 gift certificate or something. It worked, but at the same time, everybody wanted to buy the chairs. I'm like, these aren't antique chairs. I literally just bought them from IKEA 2 weeks ago. So it was kind of interesting. Like I did get a lot of people to tag me or follow, but at the same time, it backfired from no, these chairs aren't for sale. Like, can you buy some other stuff, please? But
everyone's taste is different. Of course, that's always usually how. That's how small business works too. It's always something interesting that takes you to left field. You're like, wait, what? You're here, but you want the IKEA chair. No.
I know, that was my head. I'm thinking, you're at this. This was at Brimfield. I don't know if you've ever heard of it in Massachusetts.
Oh,
yeah. I'm like, there's a lot of good people and a lot of experts, but I was like, you want my IKEA chairs? But
That's at
yeah,
Brimfield out of all like antique stuff. You surprised that somebody wants IKEA pieces there.
yeah. I love going there. I've only sold there once. I will sell there again probably someday. It's. I only did the weekend. One of the fields that are only open during the weekend because the whole thing's open Tuesday to like Sunday. But one of these times I'll probably do a full week just to see how it goes. But anything else you want to tell the listeners?
Not that I can think of, but if I'm missing anything, let me know.
No, I think we covered a lot. Like I'll put a plug in for you. Like I mean, I don't know how many things I bought from the store before, but between then and the custom ring you made for me and my 3 friends, the custom necklace, and actually you did the coin for me too. You put that coin in the bezel. You've done a lot of work for me, and it's all been perfect and awesome. So I will put a plug in for you too. That hey, if you need something, reach out. Blackpointjewelers.com or find Keira on Instagram or Facebook. And secondly, I can't thank you enough too, because literally, like I said, back in 2017, when I was kind of on the fence about things and what am I going to do, I just got to Connecticut. For a lot of people in the military, when they first get somewhere new, there's always this I don't want to call it depressive time, but there's this weird I don't know anybody. I'm trying to learn the area, trying to meet people. And I think I met you pretty early on, and right when I was thinking about the antique business, start my own thing. And and you were willing to talk to me that day in the store, and I really I benefited from that. And I can't thank you enough for the help that gave me in actually starting it. So thanks for that. And I'm glad we could have you on today and talk about all your successes and things like that. So.
Thank you very much. I'm honored. Thank you. I do. I do support small business, so I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh.
Raise your banner if you need help, and raise your banner to let others know you're a safe person to turn to. Until next time, stick around and keep on moving forward. Research conducted by Matrixa Research Group. Artwork created by Jenna Bordinger at jbordingerart.com or at jbordinger_art on Instagram. And music by Josiah Renton, DJ Slowbro.